These are the new metal releases for August 23rd, 2024. I have 5 albums to talk about, and it's going to be an interesting episode because a few of the bands that I mentioned will be pretty well-known bands, but at the same time, they were kind of new to me. I have a few different styles, such as a death metal band that's based on Egyptian history, a solo album from a singer who is from a well-known symphonic metal band, an experimental metal band that I know some people didn't like, but I have my thoughts on it. Then there's a band that plays some Manowar-style, a heavy metal, and a metalcore band that I know is kind of popular, but I wasn't very familiar with. So let's get into this. The first album I have is Nile with The Underworld Awaits Us All. This is a death metal band from Greenville, South Carolina. They've been around for a while, since about the 90s. And what makes this band special is their lyrics are focused on Egyptian history as well as the works of H.P. Lovecraft. I haven't really listened to this band that much. I've heard a few songs over the years. I've never really spent time listening to their other albums. I've heard people say that this is their best album in a long time. I know people are saying that their last few albums were not that good. So I went into it with an open mind, and it's a pretty good album. So for me, this band sounds like death metal. There are lots of fast tempos, there are intense drumming, deep guttural vocals, but the band also knows how to slow it down, and the songs go through many different changes. They released a single with a very long name. It's called Chapter for Not Being Hung Down, something, whatever it is. This one really shows off the essence of the band. It's just very heavy, very fast, lots of intense guitar riffs, and some pretty cool double bass drumming. Like I said, the lyrics are about Egyptian history. I like that aspect of it. I know a lot of death metal bands seem to write songs about the same thing, whether being the devil or some type of serial killer, and they're hacking up bodies. But this is some history lessons, and I like that. And it's the kind of band that I like to listen to and read the lyrics as I go along, because if you read along, you can understand what the vocalist is saying. So it's a pretty cool aspect of this band. So I think it's the kind of album you can enjoy by listening to with headphones. This way you can pay attention to all the different intricate parts, and you can read the lyrics as you listen along. I think that helps you appreciate this band a little more. Another thing that makes this album really good is that some of the songs have these backing vocals, and it sounds like some type of falsetto singing, and it creates that Egyptian atmosphere that they're going for. There's also a short acoustic instrumental in the middle of the album, and it helps bring a different aspect into the album. I heard some people saying it's too long, and I can agree with that. But there are some people saying it kind of drags towards the end. But I disagree. I think I like the songs on the second half of the album better. For example, I know the last 2 songs, they kind of slowed it down a little bit, and they do these deep string bends on like 2 of those songs. And I like that. So for me, it's a good album. My score is an 8.5 out of 10. I'll be listening to it a little bit more. And if you're a fan of this band, you'll probably like it more than some others. Let me know what you think of this album. Next is the solo album by Simone called Vermillion. She is a Dutch singer and the lead singer of symphonic metal band Epica. This is also her debut solo album, and it has 10 songs with a few guests, such as Alisa White-Gloos from Arch Enemy and Mark Jansen, who is the guitarist of Epica. The opening track is called Eterna. This is what you would expect. That's a Middle Eastern sound. It's just an overall symphonic metal type of sound. Now, if you've never heard of Simone Simons, she has a very operatic singing style. The songs go through different peaks and valleys. I think the one word to describe the song is very epic. There's one part of the song where they had these choir-style vocals with backup singers. They're singing in Latin, and there's some futuristic instrumentation used, as well as some heavy guitar riffs. So I thought it was a pretty good song. Seems to have a lot of ideas mixed within it. Then there's a song, Cradle to the Grave, which has Alisa White-Gloos, and I thought this one had some heavier guitars, still maintained that epic symphonic nature I was talking about with the first song. Alisa White-Gloos does some of her heavy death growls that contrast with the softer singing of Simone Simons. And I like the song because it has both the symphonic sounds as well as the heavier death growls, which is close to what she does with her band Epica. There was another song that stood out called Weight of My World, and I like it because not only has some heavy guitar riffs, it has these weird futuristic types of electronic sounds and almost industrial drum beat. And there was another song I liked called The Core, and I thought she got pretty experimental on this track. It has some futuristic electronic sounds and an almost industrial beat, but also some of her symphonic vocals. This one also has Mark Jansen on guitar, and he also does some death growls like he does with the band Epica. So I think this might be my favorite album out of all of them this weekend, because the songs are just very well written, the vocals very good, and there's a lot going on from the epic symphonic sounds to the heavier parts, and even delve into a little bit of death metal at times. So my score is going to be an 8.5 out of 10. Really good solo album. If you're a fan of Simone Simons, I recommend you check it out.
That we fight each other.
The next album I have is Zeal and Ardor with Greif, and this is an interesting one because I know some people said they didn't like it, but it was my first time listening to this band and I kind of liked it, so let's talk about it. It's basically a very unique type of band. They mix African American music and black metal, so it's kind of a strange album, but I kind of liked it. I guess it's because my first time listening to them, I had nothing to compare it to. But let's talk about it because there's a lot going on with these songs. I think the main thing people were complaining about was the lack of the black metal sounds and the increased use of electronic sounds in post-rock. So the opening track is called The Bird, the Lion, and the Wildkin, and it was kind of an intro track with some interesting percussion and distorted guitar chords. The next track, Fend You Off, had some interesting vocals and power chords like the previous song, but this one had heavy and light parts in the end of the second half of the song. Then there was a song called Disease. It sounds like a lot like something from Queens of the Stone Age. You can hear that specifically in the guitar sounds as well as the vocals. There was another standout track called Clawing Out that had an industrial sound with some new metal guitar riffing and harsh vocals. And it just shows that when you listen to this album, you don't really know what you're getting, like from one song to the next. And some people might think that the album lacks cohesiveness, but I actually like it when bands release albums and have songs with different styles. So I feel it keeps things interesting. So yes, this is going to be a divisive album. I kind of liked it, but that's because I don't have anything to compare it to. Maybe if I went back and listened to their other albums, I might like those better. But for now, I'm going to give it a 7.5 out of 10. Let me know what you think of this album. If you like it, or if you don't, just let me know. It's kind of strange. The next album is from the band All For Metal, and the name of the album is Gods of Metal. This is going to be a fun one. And it's the only album from here that I've spent a little bit of time with because I had a promo of it. So I listened to it a few times, like during the week. So this album, Gods of Metal, is their second album. It has a subtitle, Year of the Dragon, which is to honor the Japanese year 24. It's a band that's inspired by bands like Manowar. The band has these outrageous costumes, and there are about 6 people in the band with both men and women in the band. It's heavy metal, very over the top, but also the songs are catchy. Songs that will stick in your head after you listen to them. Type of album you don't really need to take too seriously. It's a fun album, but let me talk about a few of the songs. First track is called Cry for Help, and it's an intro track, and it's one of those tracks where they tell this like epic battle story, and there's that music in the background, and that's basically where it is. The next song is the title track, and it's just a very big and epic heavy metal song with lots of cheese, big powerful guitar chords, and very catchy chorus. The next song is called Year of the Dragon. This has used some interesting wind and stringed instruments in addition to the heavy guitars. Thought it was a pretty cool song because it had some very low baritone style vocals. There was another standout track called Temple of Silence, and this one might have sounded a little bit more like power metal, but I thought it was a very catchy song as well. They also have a power ballad on the album called Path of the Brave, which has both male and female vocals and a very epic type of sound. But I would say out of all the songs, there's one that's the most over the top, the cheesiest, but also one that's the best because it has the chorus that will stick in your head. Talking about the song called Like Thor and Loki. It's just one of those songs that's so catchy, and when you listen to it, you won't be able to get it out of your head. So overall, it's a very fun and cheesy type of heavy metal album. Very over the top, but enjoyable. So I'm going to give this one another 8 out of 10. I think if you like power metal bands or bands like Manowar, you can definitely get into this. have one more album to talk about. That's Within the Ruins with Phenomena 2. They are a metalcore band from Massachusetts. This is also my first time listening to this band. I believe it's a sequel to their album Phenomena from 2014. The album has an interesting concept because a lot of songs are either about superheroes or various comic book characters. So I'll talk about that as I go through the songs. The album has a typical metalcore sound with various electronic sounds, lots of heavy down-tuned guitar riffs, low guttural vocals, and intense drumming. The opening track was inspired by the Punisher comic book character, and you could tell by the song title, Castle in the Sky, because the character's name is Frank Castle. Another standout track is called The Demon Killer, and this one's about the comic book and movie character called Constantine. This one has lots of electronic sounds. They also mixed in a lot of heavy guitar riffs, so I thought this one was pretty cool. They had lots of tempo changes in the song. Then there was another track called The Last Sun, and this was inspired by Superman, the comic book character. I thought it was interesting because it had a slower tempo, but the guitar riffs were heavy, so it's the kind of thing you can bang your head along to. This was also had a lower range vocals as well as some of those higher range deathcore style vocals as well. There's an instrumental on the album called Death Mask. This one draws its inspiration from heavy metal music, so it was an enjoyable track. If you're looking for something that's a little bit more straightforward, that's a good track to listen to. And I like this track because it reminds me of something that could be like a James Bond type of movie. I think if you have to listen to it, I think that guitar riff kind of sounds like a spy movie kind of thing. So I thought it was pretty cool. I don't listen to a lot of metalcore, but it might be one of the better metalcore albums of the year. So I guess I'll give this one an 8 out of 10. I think it's a solid album. I'll just have to listen to the other ones as well. So that is all. Check out last week's episode of the new metal releases for August 16th. Thanks for watching. Please like this video. It helps me with the YouTube algorithm. Please subscribe if you're not already. I do rock and metal reviews, rankings, and more, and classic album reviews. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.